their pace is. Envy is on the other side of the equation, but it's been really nice to see Montreal play with a little bit more of an up-tempo pace. They were challenging Envy on control every step of the way. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight. Almost 90% of all of the Ilios was fighting, and it was nice to see that Montreal also had that look. They're not all about, you know, keeping space, getting that initial pick, and winning those wars of attrition all the time.
Exactly. Montreal Rebellion, kind of by nature of the heroes that they like to run, Facilities Far is not a hero that you're going to see pop out of spawn, one-shot somebody, and immediately snowball the fight. You usually need to wait for the barrage to come in. Part of the reason why Montreal tends to play a bit more slowly, but they got to up the tempo, especially when they are getting dove right now. Team Envy, oh no, Facility decides to do him a huge solid and take himself out of the fight.
Team Envy probably forced him to do it. The D.Va was probably in his face, caused him to do damage to himself, and without Facility in the air, Montreal Rebellion hasn't really been able to do anything outside of that. Mistakes on the Sombra this time around, developing that EMP much better than Smex. Let's see if it's actually going to matter as we go into this first stage of Hollywood with Team Envy with an already kind of taken advantage.
Yep. Oh, Montreal's not even all dead just yet, and Team Envy sneak point A right from underneath their noses. Facility is not the end-all be-all for Montreal Rebellion, but definitely a large part of the composition that they're running right now. You saw how difficult it was for Montreal to get off of the cafe since they can't threaten that much damage without Facility alive. They will, however, have EMP into Blizzard, EMP into Nano, and Valkyrie already on tap. So they have the chance to stop the payload right here on Streets phase around this initial choke where it's very hard for the attackers to break out, but they have to watch out for Team Envy.
EMP goes through from Team Envy first, and you see exactly what the game plan still is. It's take the Pharah out of the air. It almost feels like old school Sombra with the Zenyatta's, where you would solo EMP as Zen because all the shields would go away, and that's an automatic kill back in the day. Facility masquerading as that Zenyatta right now, as every EMP from Sharp has directly been into counter Facility in the air.
It's kind of flattering that a team is going to invest so many resources into frustrating you, but it's not frustrating Facility much right now. Good stagger from Montreal.
So that's going to stop Team Envy on their approach here in Streets phase. And Montreal Rebellion also have 5 ultimates. Mistakes only when using an ultimate in that last fight. Looking over at Team Envy, though, 4 on their side. It's still good for them. They could defend against the ultimates of Montreal Rebellion if they play it right. Amanda's going to start things off, and another hack onto this Pharah. At this point, you got to start thinking about if you're going to potentially change it, because Facility has been kept in check this whole time. He gets constantly hacked, constantly slept, and he's been constantly under 100 HP pretty much throughout most of these last 2 rounds. And even though he's still alive in this moment in time, because he's unable to push people off of the rest of his team, they're going to fall anyway.
He ain't doing nothing right now. Montreal have one more shot to try and contest this before B. Team Envy, Numlock's looking for somebody to isolate with that Primal, and the Sleeping May isn't going to be doing much to keep Point B away from Team Envy's clutches, and Numlock manages to live. Blizzard catches absolutely nobody.
Numlock also manages to live after getting a little bit of support from his team. Happy going to get a couple more kills, and right now it's just the cleanup crew against Montreal Rebellion. I do believe there are some members of Team Envy who have not died yet this round, and Montreal Rebellion losing all of that momentum from Ilios. They were right there with Envy for a lot of that control round, but it has not been the same since.
They got to swap, and they do. Facility is just, if you're getting hacked, you're not only downing yourself, but you're downing your Mercy too, and that's what you have to remember. The Pharah is the Mercy's lifeline to safety, and Montreal are going to swap Facility onto the main now. Smex onto the Roadhog, but Team Envy have such a big momentum advantage.
Beautiful EMP coming in from Sharp. Almost everybody hacked for Montreal Rebellion, and almost all of them are dead.
Yeah, that's oftentimes how it goes. Team Envy not even needing all of their ultimates down there just to make sure.
EMP goes through 4 members of Team Envy hacked. Are they going to be able to stall enough? That's a fast Hollywood, everyone at home. That did not stop from that first point. I believe they took that first point in their first fight as well. I believe there's, I think, a couple members of Envy who have not died yet this round. 3 minutes and 47 seconds on the clock. That's pretty quick.
Very impressive. Yeah, very impressive stuff from Team Envy. And it could have gone even more quickly if they weren't up against a bunker. Team Envy deciding not to get too greedy in a lot of those instances. You can see Numlock could have dove deeper with his Winston, but instead playing the slightly safer game, using the bubble just to zone the Ana away, block that line of sight for any healing to the Montreal front line, and slowly but surely Team Envy grinding Montreal down into the ground. And no flare, no crazy shenanigans, no Reapers. Oh, please. No Reapers.
Hey,
just
Reaper's been doing good in
steady.
Overwatch League.
Maybe very recently, but I just remember right after Rollock dropped, Reaper's absolutely getting nothing. But hey, you never quite know. It's not 2-2-2 just yet in
I mean,
Contenders.
you can say it. It was Facility.
It was Facility. I'm sorry, Facility.
Say it.
I'm sorry.
It was on
Facility.
Anubis, and he played it for like 4 minutes and got one ultimate, and then died right after using it.
Capture point A in one push, lose Anubis. That's the Reaper way.
Montreal Rebellion now going to be avoiding the Reaper for the time being. I'm actually really excited to see A10 a little bit later this week. That's going to be on Wednesday. We get to cast his game, and he's someone I know who likes to play Reaper, likes proving those Reaper haters wrong.
Exactly.
And so I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to bring on Wednesday. Also on a World Cup team. Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
Montreal Rebellion and Team Envy now going to be squaring off. Montreal Rebellion need to make some work happen here on this first point. They got to match Team Envy at least a little bit. It's okay, I think, to finish this with like 2 minutes below in the timing, giving them an opportunity to capture that first point, but they've got to keep it competitive. And what Montreal Rebellion is running now is going to be some switches. We got Goliath on the Junkrat.
That's certainly unusual. Not sure what Montreal Rebellion are exactly trying to go for, but Nex is going to take a nap. Maybe they're just going all out damage. They have mistakes on the Hanzo, great for bursting shields, Facility as well, taking to the air, great for bursting down the tank. Since Envy is not going to be running as much mobility, they got Reinhardt, Numlock on the Reinhardt, so once that shield breaks, he's going to be extremely vulnerable, not only to any mines, but to the hook as well.
So the name of the game for Montreal is to push enough damage to do exactly what they did to Happy Cool and then take up that space. Because they've got the Junkrat and the Ferret and the Hanzo, they're going to be able to take away a lot of land from Team Envy, as not a lot of it's going to be safe because of the spam coming in from Montreal. Facility gets stunned. Smex, though, gets the kill in at the end as Team Envy are still holding on strong on it. His defense, for the time being, is going to be able to save his take with that Nano. Numlock is so close to falling that he's going to end up getting some kills in return. Good support play once again from Team Envy, but Crimzo is down.
Crimzo is down. Tensa as well, trying to push Montreal's tempo. Pops the Valkyrie, not going to get as much value as he might have wanted because Montreal lost members so quickly, but they are still in this, and this is kind of the dual side of Montreal's composition, is they have a ton of DPS who can stay alive for a while. Oh man, that is...
Tire for a mech, I think that's an alright trade, and Junkrat for a Diva, that seems to complete the area for us. Arez is going to be invested for Montreal. They're so low, every other pick from Team Envy will be permanent here. They do get Crimzo. It seems like Crimzo is the key to all of this. If they take down Crimzo, they are able to take down these points. The Fire also going to pop off. He is a fragging Lucio, something he can say every single day. He's going to use the Sound Barrier, give Numlock just a little bit more time to live, which gives Team Envy a little bit more time to stabilize. As we see Graviton Surge coming in as well from Team Envy. Sharp gonna survive with 55 HP.
Oh, his team's got his back. I mean, just that feel when you're a Junkrat and you see a Lucio fly into your hallway and try and 1v1 you, that is just not something you see every day. Not only does Fire live and Goliath die, but Montreal Rebellion now cut down to just a minute and 20 seconds. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been clean, but Team Envy managed to survive the all-out onslaught from Montreal Rebellion. Honestly, I feel any other team would have just crumbled. Holding together a point A with just 3 members alive against a Pharah, a Junkrat, and Hanzo, difficult stuff.
Happy Cool gonna fall, or take down the Fair. Facility is going to fall. Team Envy have 6 members still. Montreal have 2. And the Valkyrie is going to be wasted in this engage. Goliath unable to make anything happen with that Junkrat. I like the idea, but in practice, maybe not against Envy.
It's pretty tough because if nothing else, I mean, Goliath was actually farming tires with the quickness, but it's a lot of strain on Tensa. Usually you see the Mercy attached solely to the Pharah. You have somebody else taking care of the tanks.
Ooh, Shatter goes through. That's more kills coming in from Team Envy. Good stuff coming in from Numlock. Not into a shield. That's good. Montreal Rebellion using all of their members. That is a team wipe with 19 seconds left. Team Envy did give them a little bit of a spite because they're going to be able to come onto the point potentially. Montreal, are you going to be able to trigger overtime?
They don't have a Lucio, so it's going to be up to Smex or Mistakes to touch that point, but Arkaru chunked down before he can even see point A, and the grab going to tie things up for Envy, who full hold Montreal for the series win.
This has got to be terrifying for everybody else in Contenders, particularly in this group, because it took a while, honestly, for Numlocked and Happy Cool to look like this, right? This is exactly what we expect Envy to do in these games. It was a little rough last week, to be completely honest. I mean, they lost a map. It's so funny that we have to move the goalposts for Team Envy like that. They lost a singular map all season.
I can't believe
they're on
they
the
gave
back
up
foot.
control.
They're getting worse.
So disappointing.
Yeah, but in the end, it's not just the main tanks, right? It's not just your personnel. It's the whole org in general. And I think Envy has shown that they're able to trade up anyone they want at this point. They've gotten a ton of people into Overwatch League from like 3 seasons ago, starting with the Gravy. And now you're here, Team Envy, with their second iteration of their tank line, and they're starting to perform better than they were last week. And just like we talked about other teams, you want to be peaking right now. This is where you want to be getting better. And Numlocked and Taffy looking like they've been with Envy for a while
from the beginning. Yeah. And to Montreal's credit, I actually liked what they were trying to go for. Even with all of the difficulties that they experienced the single Mercy for so many squishy DPS. I mean, Hanzo's going to need your healing, Junkrat's going to need your healing, Winston's going to need your healing, and of course, Pharah. That is a lot of targets for one lonely Mercy. But Montreal was able to get very far, and like we said, adaptation and that hero chess game is what Overwatch is at this point. You have to be able and willing to make those adjustments, and again, I believe any other team likely would have crumbled under that pressure. You don't have a lot of Lucios who are like, yo, just send me in. I'll take down the Junkrat, right? You know what I mean? So Montreal could have gotten quite far with that composition. You have so many massive bursts of damage between that Junkrat, the Hanzo, and the Pharah, but they're playing Team Envy.
And Team Envy it's in it. They are a team. Something that we've been talking about other teams here in Contenders is that team play just not really being there for some of these teams. I think earlier today we saw Revival just unable to put together even with a ton of early picks. Montreal also getting some early picks and unable to take advantage, but Team Envy know what to do. Hey, Happy Cool's gone. What do the 5 remaining members? They know what to do in that situation. They call out their top. I bet their comms are super clean just in general, and they play like a team. Again, it's easy to compare them with Atlanta Academy on the other side, another very team-oriented team, just with a little bit more of a sprinkle of BM in there.
Exactly.
Team Envy, though, going to be going on to Havana, already winning the series 3-0. They're potentially going to be finishing out their undefeated season. They already finished out their undefeated season, but they're going to potentially finish it out with only 1 map loss. That in itself has only happened a couple times in the entire world of Contenders. So even though they didn't find that golden season, in the end, only 1 map loss and finishing undefeated is a huge accomplishment for Team Envy. And every one of them should be patting themselves on the back for being dominant, not just for 1 season, but for 2 seasons in a row. That kind of consistency is hard to find in Tier 2 at times.
Oh, absolutely. And something else that we have to keep in mind when comparing the records of Team Envy with Atlanta Academy is that Atlanta Academy have had the same roster ever since they came to Contenders, essentially. Other than Kodak.
And Funny Astro.
But Team Envy has gone through a couple of iterations. We just mentioned a few of the names that have moved on into Owl. So all throughout this season, Atlanta Academy, same starting 6, Team Envy constantly making those swaps. So to me, still very impressive despite that 1 dropped map. And Montreal now on Havana. We actually haven't seen a ton of Havana today. We've seen quite a few very early holds. So Montreal going to be looking to do that very same thing with Facility in the air, Mistakes on the Widowmaker.
So I'm actually really intrigued as we go, as we have a little bit of time as these teams set up. Well, before we get that, let's see if we're going to see an up-close hold coming in from Montreal. No, they're gonna give them a little bit of space. Team Envy, I believe, has started attacking all but 1 time. And basically my question to you is, what do you think that benefits Team Envy for, that they always get to set that tempo, right?
I mean, it's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of your opponents who have to be able to match you, right? If you get an early hold, then you know you only have to push the cart that far. But Team Envy, a very aggressive team who excel on the offense, as we can say for many teams in Contenders. But look at this, Facility just forced to hightail it back. Somebody finally kills Fire. that's
Needed
going
to sleep them in order to set up the headshot.
Yeah, but Team Envy still finding quite a bit of progress. They had pushed forward so far that Montreal are now the ones forced to fall back and try and defend.
Man.
Oh, man.
Finding the kills. Crimson and Fire showing up, in my opinion, just as much as Happy and Sharp are in the kill feed. So spreading the love for sure on the Team Envy. Montreal Rebellion now still on the defensive side. Numlock's going to get nanoed. Is going to get stunned. Goliath is going to be his target. The armor pack has been on Goliath. He's going to fall, though. The Ana is no longer going to be able to sweep any type of aggressive member of a Team Envy, but they are able to get their res off. But is it going to be worth it, as they've already given up a ton of space? You're seeing the payload move right now, and Goliath is going to go down again. Montreal still unable to make anything happen.
No quarter, no prisoners. Team Envy, the cart also hasn't stopped moving ever since it left spawn. Team Envy right now very fully comfortable with dealing with what Montreal are bringing, who haven't made a ton of adaptations despite getting crushed by Envy. You basically only need to send a couple of members foraging in the Montreal backline. That time around is going to be Numlocked, your top hero, to go and do that. And the rest of Envy simply clean up the dregs. Montreal, what can all the tanks in the world do if they don't have access to the healers that Numlock has zoned away?
Sharp is already in the back line trying to set up the EMP. Vasili's already slept, and now the bomb goes off. Once again, can't really do much with the bird in the sky, which is so crazy to me because it's so effective 3 maps ago, and to be unable to recreate that, I think that's more on Envy than Rebellion at this point, has been brutal for Montreal.
Envy taking a page out of the Atlanta playbook and just, staying relaxed. You can't get too tense here. Oh, Facility uses the barrage just to even get a little something going, and he does, but sadly it's not on the cart. Numlock is going to sacrifice himself, but all the while, Team Envy.
Team Envy should lose this out, but 3 members of Team Envy were enough to bring all of Montreal Rebellion over to them. Make sure that they got rid of those 3 members first and then come back onto the payload and contest it. There's still 3.5 minutes for Team Envy. This is some really good time, especially here on Havana. So Team Envy has gotten stopped up in the middle part of Havana in the past. It's been a little bit of a cagey map for them. Team Envy, though, have another opportunity to come back with some ultimate. Sharp has the EMP. This is all that they've needed most of the time. He's going to go ahead and use it. 4 members of Montreal Rebellion have that. And Hack did see it go a little bit earlier, so he's able to use the Valkyrie, but it's not enough to save his team.
Oh, he does get the mech, but that's not going to be enough to stop Team Envy as Numlocked again, just devouring these healers in the backline. Something that I've noticed is that even though Team Envy isn't always going to get these confirmed kills, all of this disruption that Numlocked is sowing in the Montreal Rebellion backline is enough a lot of the time. If your Mercy is forced to heal your Ana to keep her alive, she's not healing the rest of your team. If your Ana is forced to try and sweep an encroaching monkey, she's not healing the rest of your team.
What we were talking about earlier about these 2 tanks functioning really well, that was a really good example of that. Numlocked Happy Cool, both going onto the Brig at the same time, diving on to Mech and just not letting him out. Now they're going to be helping each other. You gotta escort your Winston with that defense matrix at times. Even though Facility is finally able to get some kills, the reason why Team Envy were able to take so much space here at the beginning, which is going to equal payload time as well, is because of how good that dive was initially against Montreal Rebellion. Unfortunately, they flew them too close to the sun, and they do fall, but Montreal also coming back with potentially 6 ultimates.
Yeah, and Team Envy can't get too comfortable at any point. If there's any weakness of their counterparts in the East, Atlanta, it is their hubris. So Team Envy have to play everything by the book. Beautiful EMP into bomb. Another great combo by Envy.
That Team Envy rings true once again. It's not like we've never seen EMP bomb before, right? It's not like we've seen these wombos before, but Team Envy have always, dating back to last season, been able to be more successful and more consistent with these same combos. There was a time where bomb just didn't really kill anybody there, and so now that Team Envy has found that EMP and the bomb being successful against Montreal specifically, it's like the tool that they can continue to use. Mistakes throwing that lava, trying to take a little bit more of the environment away. The rocket barrage is there. A little bit of a distraction, I think, was that molten core. They forgot about the bird in the air, but once again, the payload is at the arches. This is where Havana gets the most difficult, though, finishing this out can be very, very difficult for teams, regardless of how much time they've got on the clock.
Really beautiful predict by Facility right there, catching a stealth Sombra, just using that experience. I have a feeling there might be a shark, a wild shark might just appear. And as we mentioned before, Facility has a Pocket Reaper, and we're about to see it in action here. Third point of Havana, if ever there was a moment. Nope, Facility, big debate. Team Envy, though, getting a little bit comfortable. That 3-man push isn't always going to work, but it is going to work if you kill the main tank right away.
You know, it might have actually been better to keep the Reaper in that specific situation and come out of spawn with the monkey right in your face. You're going to do a little bit more damage on the Reaper. We can team all we want, but it could have worked there. Facility already at 3% though on that Rocket Barrage. Next and Fire both get kills. It's a 5v5. Looking at the HP bars, Montreal losing a second net from everyone else is pretty healthy right now. You can say the same for Team Envy. Nice Biotic Grenade on the Crimson that is going to help him go down, and this Eva trying his hardest. Happy trying so hard to run interference with this Pharah in the sky, but when Crimson's not hitting his sleep start, it seems like the Ability has so much more of an opportunity to open these points up. It's totally cool that he got killed by that bomb, because they had already won that fight, as Team Envy are going to have to come in again with 1 minute and 9 seconds left.
Worth, definitely worth if you're Montreal Rebellion. You're right at your own front doors. That kill is not going to matter at all. And Team Envy now find themselves with just 60 seconds left, so if they do want to complete Havana, it's not 100% necessary. They can just hold Montreal a little bit earlier, but it'd be nice to have that insurance policy. Numblock, though, getting a little bit surprised Nano there. You can see he was about to retreat.
You could definitely see that he had to react to the Nano. Probably a reason why he slept, but maybe that focus was enough for Daru to find that pick. Jikaru also going to fall. The stakes now is on that Doomfist. That is that one-punch kill. Potentially already has that Meteor Strike. He's going to go right on the payload, try to clear it out. They're going to go ahead and just stay on the payload. In a general, Team Envy ain't scared of the Doomfist. They got to take him down eventually, though. The Brig's a really great way of doing it. The Rocket Punch is going to take down Fire. What were you thinking, Fire? Yeah. That's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen you make so far today. Why would you even go into the room with the Doomfist? Maybe even killing everyone else. You just wanted another notch on your belt, but questionable play. Definitely
a questionable play. Numblock now forced to pop Primal just to keep everything alive. Oh man, this is just, he's on a trampoline of death.
A trampoline of death. Pain and Numblock, don't you worry, Montreal friends. But the Sharp getting a kill on this Tracer, and the thing about Sharp on Tracer is it is a gorgeous sight when he is playing this character, but unfortunately we have seen less of that Tracer since Elizo and Losel have left, so we haven't really gotten to see that flex on. It's just not going to be very different. It's not going to be the game changer that Team Envy expected, as Montreal Rebellion do stall them out, but not finishing Havana as of right now, not a huge deal, because you might not even make it past the second point anyway.
Exactly. Still though, Team Envy getting the welcome mat yanked out from underneath their feet. Just a tad. As much as we were praising Crimzo and Fire, bro, what are you doing? You said that's the biggest mistake that you've seen him make. I actually saw him make a bigger one earlier when he was also just got right in the Doomfist face, and then he didn't die, but the Doomfist rocket punched Crimzo. Just, the elite supports. You're supposed to look out for each other. Anyways, Team Envy getting maybe a little bit too comfortable right there around the third point. Montreal Rebellion, though, certainly still in this, playing their hearts out. Really good Doomfist right there from mistakes to keep their team alive.
I love seeing the Doomfist come out. Sometimes it's there just for the stall tactic, but other times it's there because it works, especially in that situation. There's a lot of real estate for the Doomfist to work out on. And on that last point in the Fortress of Havana, Meteor Strike was really good stall as well, going onto the payload directly. Team Envy unable to clean up that last portion, which means that they get stopped at 96.88 meters. That's pretty much all of Havana. So if Montreal want to finish, we can say they just need to finish Havana. Team Envy, though, really want the sweep.
They do, and they're going to try and hold with Anna Goats. Numlock now on the Reinhardt, and a little bit interesting, is something of a gamble for Team Envy, because Montreal have the leeway to change their comp as they see fit. Team Envy are going to be locked into this. So Montreal have run the Pharah every single map, and Envy struggled against it on Hollywood. So now they're just going to be gambling that they can deal with Facility the same way that they did in the past. Goliath is now on Bastion, a little bit more of a surefire pick, especially here on Havana compared to a Junkrat.
really good fortify coming in from the Aristas. They're trying to take Goliath out of this game. Team Envy are doing quite a good job dealing with this Bastion already, as they're actually going to be able to take 3 kills. And just from the beginning of that, with the Bastion shooting from spawn, nobody from Envy took damage to start things off. They got a nice angle, Montreal couldn't reposition, and now we're seeing Team Envy win out on this first fight.
Yeah, it's not every day that you see the Reinhardt living against a Bastion. And Team Envy very hale and healthy right now, and with a Nano in tow.
Rocket Barrage is going to get canceled, and even if Envy lose out here, which they're not, they're holding so close that they're going to be able to hold where they wanted to anyway, where Montreal held on their push. They're going to be able to retreat, stop the payload then, but as of right now, this up-close hold is looking good. I think they heard us about the BM. They want a little bit more comparisons. I love the emotes. I like the tactical crouch, the strategic shimmy, as you like to say
strategic
as
shuffle.
well. Oh yeah, the strategic shuffle. It's popularized by Gator and his monkey. Team Envy now, 2 ults. Is it going to be enough to keep this one camp going?
Mistakes has popped Infrasight, but that's only going to help you find the kill. He's still gotta execute, and that's going to go Team Envy's way. Crimzo padding his KD ratio right now as Fire has not learned his lesson. Oh, just, dude, he's like, hey, it's not a Doomfist this time, right?
Maker is way more manageable, guys. All I have to do is not get hit in the head.
Exactly.
I'm going to make sure that happens because I'm going to be as annoying as possible on this Lucio, as Envy now still haven't let them out of spawn. Nice Maywall, though, to stop Numlock and his Shatter. They're going to get trapped into the Blizzard. This up-close hold will be over after this Blizzard completes. The Team Envy were able to take about 2 minutes off the clock. That's a really big deal for them. And they have sound barrier for the next engage. Montreal had to use some ultimates to get out of spawn. They do have 4 now. What will Team Envy do next?
And a good swap, I would say, for Montreal as well. Mistakes 30% up to that Dragon Strike. Hanzo, a lot easier to deal with those up close and pesky supports with that Storm Bow. But since Montreal now have a bit more room, Mistakes is going to swap onto the Widowmaker once again. We'll see how effective it is as Facilities again getting grounded and dove upon by Team Envy.
So is Sharp just in a really good position to get those hacks, or is Facility allowing those hacks to happen?
I mean, there's actually not a ton of cover here on the first point of Havana, very similar to other maps like Route 66, where there's not a ton of cover, and you're not going to be super effective if you're hiding in the hallways constantly. So it's just a little bit by the nature of Pharah that you are going to be vulnerable to a Sombra, who's actually a pretty good counter to Pharah's in the air, if that's your target. And as Sharp is showing, Facility is his primary target.
Facility is getting bullied right now from this Sombra. Team Envy also have a couple ults in self-destruct with tacticals that in it. This guy, nice engage coming in from Team Envy, taking out Diana. Return kill, 2 return kills now for Montreal Rebellion. This is now Montreal Rebellion's fight to lose. Nice engage for Team Envy, but really nice reaction coming in from Montreal, as they're going to be able to make it back onto the payload. The Rock Rush is going to be saved for the final push here, and they need these ultimates to capture this first point. Team Envy, though, will be able to come back and defend.
But they won't have much more than that Rally and Primal, maybe that EMP as well. I believe Sharp was setting up for another hack onto Facility, got found out, and the rest of Team Envy was forced to commit to the fight very close up, and it wasn't the position that they wanted, so they fell very early on, but they are going to have another bite at this defense.
EMP goes through. They're going to go ahead and focus down onto the Orisa, but no confirmed kills just yet. Next to the closest. The D does go down as Team Envy find another one. So 64, the Rock Barrage takes one. He's going to get to the left. That is a press due to die for Facility, as Montreal Rebellion are going to fall to Team Envy here. 4-0. Team Envy complete their undefeated season. 1 map loss for the entire season. That is amazing and crazy to think about, as Team Envy secure that #1 seed. They're definitely primed to go to the gauntlet. They got to continue their work in the playoffs, but right now they're looking good.
Standing on top of the world right now, Team Envy bounding back after that map loss with their new off-tank. Happy Cool has certainly shown himself to be a great part, a new addition to this Envy squad. And I just want to say, Crimzo, so impressive. Crimzo, call me Ambien. Like the amount of sleeps that he's able to land. Goliath also on the Montreal side, very impressive with the amount of sleeps. Able to get a ton of sleeps onto Numlocked. And if it had continued throughout the series, it would have become something that Team Envy needed to cut down on. But as it was, they stopped making themselves vulnerable to that tactic from Montreal Rebellion, whereas Crimzo still able to find those on the bird in the air.
Montreal seemed to be reacting most of that game, and even when they had an advantage, they didn't have the wherewithal to push it because they were just
scrambling.
Yeah, exactly. I think that high tempo play from Envy really got to them.
And again, pinpoint dives from Envy and total confidence in their individual players. As much as we like to hype up their synergy and their teamwork, sending your Winston alone into the backline to hassle the supports is not always a guaranteed good play for a lot of teams. And the fact that Numlocked was able to survive, and not only that, but find kills, was just a great testament to the individual caliber of those MV players as well. Because like you said, Boop, even if Montreal got a pick, then it's like, well, crap, what do we do now? Everybody's so low. There's a monkey hassling our Ana. There's a diva in the face of our Pharah. She's half too. Where do we allocate these resources? And for Montreal, unfortunately, that is going to be the end of the season. New adaptation is going to come the next time around.
Regular season, they are going to be able to make it into the playoffs. As we do look at the standings, and the reason why we're showing this to you right now is because we have one game remaining. That's going to be Triumph and a Tea Party in the 5th and 6th spot. Looking at Triumph, if they win, they will be the 3rd seed. So a lot on the line for Triumph fans. Tea Party might not be able to move around in this situation, but for Triumph, you win and you got that 3rd seed, and that's a big deal for you, especially since you're coming in through trials to be the 3rd seed along with Second Wind once again to be competing for that spot. That just goes to show that the community still has a lot of players to offer, and there's still a lot of talent out there, regardless if you're on an academy team or an unsigned team. But now we have to get to our last game of North America West of the regular season. That's going to be Tea Party versus Triumph Gaming, where Triumph is looking for that 3rd seed. We'll see you soon.